This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
The views expressed on the following show are not necessarily those of WPSL. However, we're the ones who've encouraged you all along to like and share them on your favorite social media and with all your friends and neighbors, because Joanne's Nutrition World, now with 2 locations, presents Joanne's World of Nutrition with the one and only Joanne Seeger.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I'm so glad I could make it in today with all this going on, right? So exciting. And not only did I get myself in, but I have a very special guest online with me this morning, Dr. Lexi Loch. Good morning, Lexi. How are you?
Good morning. Well, I am excited to hear the good news that you have now opened a second store. So when did the second one open?
Well, technically today, tomorrow. So it's kind of a silly story, okay? So the city is doing all their normal procedures, right? And I'm not used to it because when I bought Nutrition World 20 years ago, it was already in business, so it's not like I had to start from scratch. And even though like I opened up Nutrition Smart in Tampa from scratch and all that greatness, we had people that dealt with the city. I didn't have to do that kind of stuff. So I've kind of just thought I would use my little personality and charm to just make it happen, just manifest the licenses and stuff. And then everyone I ran into was like, oh, you have to deal with the city. Oh, you have to do the inspections. And I'm like going, don't you be putting all that negative chat in my world, And so then we started getting in that bandwagon, my husband and I, and then all of a sudden it seemed so long, even though it really wasn't. So we finally got the approval to open, right? And then we look at this big, beautiful new space and we're like, oh, wait, we got so much more to do. Half the products haven't arrived. Our beverage cooler hasn't arrived. So here we were, just like all huffing and puffing about the city. And meanwhile, we still weren't ready. And then we thought we were pretty much good to go for a soft opening, just real gentle opening, no advertisements. And the city sent us an email. So when my husband filled out the application, he put the DBA as Joanne's Nutrition World because everyone knows me for 20 years as Joanne's Nutrition World. So he just assumes, since we've only been married 6 years, I'm Joanne's Nutrition World. Well, the city let me know on Friday that no, SunBiz, you're Nutrition World. But we decided, because we don't want to put a whole nother application in, obviously, we're just gonna change it to Joanne's Nutrition World, which is how everyone knows me anyways. So yes, so now we're waiting for the official SunBiz review and then the city manager review to say that I qualify as Joanne's Nutrition World. And there shouldn't be any other Joanne's Nutrition World. And even when I go to the shows, there's that amazing store, Nutrition World, I think in Tennessee. And then, the sister store to My Nutrition World in Palm Beach. So when I go to conventions or anywhere, I usually do say I'm Joanne's Nutrition World. But yeah, so interesting, right? So we're just waiting for that email, and the store's looking great. Of course, as soon as you walk in, Terry is all around you. Yeah. So Dr. Lexi Loch has an amazing bio. So I'm going to let her tell all my listeners her incredible bio. I was telling your bio to my daughters that are 14 and 15. They were like, Mom, could she really have done that much already in her life? She looks so young because, they were doing the education module, the last one you did.
Expert voice, maybe?
Yeah, the expert voice. And so, they were like, she's too young to have accomplished all this stuff. And I'm like, hey, you set your mind to it. So yes, please tell our listeners the incredible life that you've had so far.
Sure thing. So I will tell you, I am coming to you live from my she shed right now in my backyard in Portland, Oregon. So this is where I currently live. I've been in Portland for about 7 years. I moved here from Wisconsin. This was my first time ever living outside of the Midwest. So I moved here from Wisconsin 7 years ago to pursue my degree in naturopathic medicine. So right now there are 5 schools in the United States that offer an accreditation program for licensing naturopathic physicians, and 3 of them happen to be on the West Coast, which makes sense. So I fell in love with kind of the natural product side of things, supplements, all of the works when I started working at our local health food store. But I'll kind of backtrack a little bit. So, my first degree was in biology and animal behavior. I was one of those kids who thought I was going to be a veterinarian when I grew up. I've always, always, always loved animals. I would find little creatures outside and try and bring them in. And my mom was like, "What are you doing? No thanks." I currently share my home with dogs, of course. They're all inside, probably snoozing right now. So I graduated with my degree in biology, animal behavior, and then I went to school thinking that if I wanted to become a veterinarian, maybe I should become a veterinary technician first, which is kind of like a nurse or support staff for veterinarians. Do a lot of things with the animals, but I did that, loved what I did, loved working with the animals, but I experienced burnout pretty quickly. It's hard. Like you're in it because you love playing with animals and puppies and kittens and making sure animals are happy and healthy. And, you don't always see the other side of things. So I got burnt out pretty fast and I was looking for kind of a major change. And then I was like, oh, well, I had been starting to shop in our local health food store quite a bit already and was starting to make some personal changes to put myself on a better path. And I found out that our local health food store was hiring. And I was like, well, look, I'm already spending a lot of time and a lot of dollars at the health food store. So if I could get a discount, let's do this. And I got to learn so much in the process, facing the products on the shelf. I was always reading the labels. So I worked at the health food store for about a year and then joined Europharma, which is the parent company to the Terry Naturally brand dietary supplements. Been with them almost 10 years now. It'll be 10 years in December. And then that kind of really helped me go down the rabbit hole of natural products, supplements, etc., and which eventually led me to want to pursue my degree as a naturopathic physician. Now, of course, in addition to all of that cool, fun stuff, I also am an athlete. I've been an athlete like most of my life. I was downhill skateboarder or longboarder for quite a few years there. But now that I am a little bit more mature, perhaps I have kind of backed down on that side of things and really ramped up volleyball. So I played volleyball from grade school throughout high school, college, and now I have within the past couple years got back into some pretty competitive volleyball. So I've been doing that a lot in my spare time.
I love it. And that's what my girls, because they're both into volleyball. But when I told them that you did, I think at one conference you were talking about is it toboggan or
So
right?
downhill longboarding, so longboards are kind of like longer, wider skateboards. So they're a little bit more theoretically, a little bit more stable to go downhill at faster speeds. So a lot of downhill longboarding is on, courses with a lot of curves in the road where you have to slide to kind of come around. So it's real. I actually have quite a few friends right now that are in Italy for the World Skate Games. So I'm excited to watch them at some point. I don't know what the time difference is
I get
exactly.
the tingles just thinking of that. Like even when I watch that stuff, I can't keep watching because I'm like get so nervous that someone's gonna hurt themselves. So and that's what my when my daughters got really impressed. They were like, "Whoa." I think even more than the naturopathic license. I'm
Yeah.
like, "No, mommy's on that side. What the heck? That's an amazing achievement." So, well,
Yeah, and I've
super
shifted
cool.
gears a little bit too. I've become more of a snowboarder. So we live like an hour away from 2 really great snowboarding resorts. And it hurts a lot less when you fall into powder in the snow which
Yeah, I
which is
can
nice.
imagine. And you don't need all that padding all over you. Oh my
Exactly.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And you just amazing life. And I'm so glad that you're in our lives for you have taught my employees and myself so many things. You always put like a very fun, casual spin on every topic to make it understandable and relatable. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And today I don't know if we're going to go with what was planned, okay? Because
That's all right.
honestly, because we're opening the second store, I don't even know what conversation was planned. But there are so many great new products that are out from Terry Naturally that I notice a lot of the bigger brands are starting to converse about them. So I was thinking we could do this in private employee training and all my listeners can get the benefit. How does that sound?
You know what? That sounds great to me.
Okay,
I'm on
awesome.
board. Yeah.
All right. So the first one is and I did do the lesson in this, but I just thought it was so amazing that everyone needs to hear it about the PEA. So
Oh,
could we start with that? Because honestly, I was embarrassed. Another company mentioned it, and I kind of sometimes nod like I know what they're talking about. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm taking the PEA. I got it. Yeah, I didn't know what the heck they were talking about. So please tell us all what PEA is and why it's so
oh,
popular right now.
this is probably one of my favorite ingredients that has come on to at least on my radar. I've heard about it before. I've, heard some various speakers mention it kind of in passing, haven't really paid a ton of attention until more recently. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, I am on the PEA bandwagon for sure. So just to kind of clarify, because I've heard some people ask, like, is this pea protein because it's PEA, which is how the abbreviated name is spelled. But it's not pea protein. It's not like your garden peas. It is a compound. So PEA stands for palmitoyl ethanolamide. Basically, PEA is something that we naturally make. It's kind of like a cousin to the endocannabinoid system. Um, the endocannabinoid system has a big impact on mood and pain perception, sleep, stress, etc. But basically, PEA is found everywhere in our body, including in our brain. So I think that kind of shows us how important this compound is. And in a lot of the scientific literature out there, it's sometimes described as being like a protector or a restorer of health. So I think one of the complications comes in is it doesn't have just like one activity. It covers a lot of bases. It's kind of one of those Swiss Army knives types of compounds. But a few of the things that I really think about PEA for are reducing pain, inflammation, swelling. It's actually been shown to help block some of the or like desensitize some of the pain channels specifically. It also helps to protect our cells against damage, whether that's damage from, certain foods or damage from toxins, damage from bacteria, viruses, whatever the cause, it helps to protect our cells against what we call free radicals. It supports the immune system. It has some direct, also indirect antiviral, antibacterial properties. So where where I tend to think, like, curcumin is probably one of my other favorite nutrients and probably one of yours as well. I think of curcumin as like the most valuable player on the team. It's going to catch every ball you throw its way. It's going to score a touchdown every single time. Now, when I think about PEA, I kind of think about it as almost like the team captain. So it's close to being your MVP because it can play all of the positions, but it also helps to provide guidance, whether that's to your offense or your defense. It helps kind of the whole team play at their best. So I think that there's definitely some similarities in what something like a curcumin and PEA can do, but I think about PEA as helping to kind of coordinate processes in the body that lead to things like reduction in pain, reduction in chronic inflammation. There's research on PEA for non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, metabolic syndrome, neuropathy, so nerve pain. I think PEA really, really excels when it comes to helping with people who have nerve pain from a variety of causes, whether that's shingles, whether that's sciatica, which is like that low back nerve pain that can sometimes extend all the way down the leg into the foot. I think about it too for people who have diabetic neuropathy. So they have some type of nerve damage or nerve dysfunction because they have high levels of blood sugar. Um, there was this really interesting study that came out on PEA for chronic pain. I mean, chronic pain is something, unfortunately, that quite a lot of people in the United States experience. I think something like 1 in 5 US adults has some level of chronic pain. This study specifically was looking at about 600 people with chronic pain who from a variety of causes. And they were either not getting satisfactory results from what their standard pain treatment was, or they had already discontinued their standard pain treatment because they weren't getting the results that they wanted. So they received PEA on its own or PEA in combination with whatever they had previously been taking. Across the board, there was a 50% reduction in their pain scores. I mean,
That's
can you think yeah, can you think of anything else out there that could, touch pain from osteoarthritis, shingles, neuropathy, even people after a failed back surgery? I mean, PEA brought down those pain scores at least 50% for everyone. So yeah, huge, huge results.
especially in sciatica too. I mean, sciatica is so tricky and it's so disruptive to people. Like, they can never calm their body down or rest. It's like sleep is really difficult with sciatica. So, I love this idea. Love, I mean, 50%, that's an incredible, yeah, incredible.
And we have some really great tools for helping alleviate pain, but we also know that pain is so individualized that what works for me may not necessarily work for you, may not work for, your friend. So I think sometimes it does take a little bit of experimentation and trying things. And I tend to use more like protocols, so I kind of layer things in. And I'm at the point where I'm like, what can't I use PEA for? Or what can't I add this to a protocol for? So it's interesting you mentioned sciatica specifically because I've seen research where PEA can drop pain scores. So, sometimes when you go to the doctor, you're in pain and they're like, what is your pain on a scale of 1 to 10?
Yep.
So in this case, it was PEA versus a placebo. So at baseline, what we call that initial visit, folks had about a 7 out of 10 pain, and sciatic pain specifically, which is pretty intense. If you had 7 out of 10 pain, you're probably not able to do, your grocery shopping, or maybe it's really painful to drive or exercise, right? So they took PEA for 3 weeks. Their pain scores came down to a 2 out of 10.
Lexi, that's incredible. That is
Yeah.
absolutely incredible. I mean, both my massage therapists at the wellness center, a lot of people come in with sciatica, and that's a tough one because sometimes they can't even be comfortable on a massage bed, to be
Oh,
worked on. They're super sensitive, and my therapists are really good, but it's tricky. Sciatica is so tricky. You know what? I want to mention to the audience, Dr. Lexi, that I gave up wine and my sciatica completely disappeared. And it's
ooh.
November's 2 years, but I tell people that they usually don't want to hear that, but it's true. I mean, because I was doing a lot of great things and I didn't have any other pain anywhere, and I felt really grateful. But the sciatica would get triggered, and I started kind of going, huh, it definitely
Mm,
flares up when I'm drinking wine. And it wasn't like I was drinking a bottle, I was having just a couple
sure.
glasses. But I gave it up and then the sciatica went away. I never got it back ever.
And
Yeah.
maybe that's people can experiment with that too, right? It's like maybe you have some type of genetic difference where, it's harder for you to metabolize wine, or for some reason it just acts as a little bit more of a inflammation producer in your body for whatever reason. But I think it's so interesting that you noticed that change, and then you're like, okay, well, what happens
Hopefully
if
after
I,
40 years, I'm
yeah,
learning something about
yeah.
myself at least, right?
Well, and honestly, that kind of brings me. So I dealt with chronic low back pain and sciatic issues when I was in um like end of high school into college. When I was playing college volleyball, I was dealing with a lot of low back pain, to the point where, I was trying acupuncture, I was trying chiropractic, that my low back pain kind of prompted me to try to explore other healing techniques, because when I went to the doctor, they were like, "Oh, well, we could do a spinal fusion." And I'm like,
Oh, Lord.
I am 20 years old. Like, I do not need anything fused together in my body? So then I was like, there's got to be another answer. And it was either that, and then they were prescribing me, painkillers. And it's like, I'm a college student. The last thing I probably need is for you to be prescribing me, things that may not mix well with alcohol or whatever. So it really helped kind of push me to want to start making some changes in my life. And there's also a pretty strong, from what my personal experience, a pretty strong connection between low back pain and emotional issues. So I do think that the emotional side of things absolutely manifests as, different types of pain in the body. And for me, I had to work through a lot of emotional things that I was experiencing throughout my life. And that also was a big, big contributor to getting rid of my back pain.
Yes, now you're talking my language.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to kind of work with my clients and speak that language, because I was a little nervous about telling all of them, well, the emotions lead to the physical manifestations. And, they roll their eyes at first, but then they go, well, you're kind of right. That happened right when that happened. And, but
Yeah.
so Lexi, the other thing that like you mentioned, we're all individuals, so all our pain is different, our diets are different, our activity levels is different. And I always usually say, hey, not when Tylenol is used, or Motrin, or all these things that have the side effects. Some people only use Tylenol, some others only use Motrin, some other, so it's the same thing with this family. I say, but the benefit is there is only side benefits. There's no side effects where you have to watch out, like, okay, I got to go get my liver checked or my kidneys
Yeah.
checked, right? So that's a great. So this you mentioned in the training, the PEA can be used with Terry Naturally's Curamin and acute pain relief, or Curamed, because I'm so loyal to them over the years. So if you can touch on that for just a couple minutes, and then we'll go to a quick break, and then go to some more good, new, exciting things.
Awesome. Yeah, I do think that PEA combines well with just about everything out there. So maybe for folks who are dealing with, muscle pain, etc., combining the PEA with something like the Curamin Extra Strength, Curamed Acute Pain Relief, I think that they play really well together, because again, we're utilizing compounds that have different mechanisms of action in the body. So, sure, is there some overlap? Perhaps. However, again, I think PEA is acting on a slightly different ways than something like curcumin and boswellia might. So, I think, we form more of a protocol when people maybe aren't getting the relief that they're looking for or hoping for. Sometimes it means that we need to add something in. Sometimes it means that we need to, maybe bump up the dosage for a short period of time as well.
Absolutely. All right, everyone, we're going to take a short break. I forgot my water in the car. I got to go grab it. All right, be right back, everyone. Hi, this is Joanne from Nutrition World and Wellness Center. I am really excited to introduce new guests and topics to my show every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. here on WPSL, where my listeners can call in on any topic. If I don't know the answer, I'll try to find it. We want to help you become the best version of yourself. We'll have naturopaths, coaches. I am looking forward to sharing my years of experience with my listeners so we can enjoy this life journey together.
Visit Joanne's Nutrition World in the Kras Square, formerly known as the Arcade Building, located at US 1 and Orange Avenue, across from Fort Pierce City Hall. Open Monday through Friday from 10 to 4, Saturdays 10 to 3. Taking appointments for the Wellness Center online at joannesnutritionworld.com or call 772-464-3598.
Hi, this is Joanne from Joanne's World of Nutrition. On every Wednesday morning, 10 to 11, we have some exciting news. We are opening up a second location in Port St. Lucie on the corner of Port St. Lucie Boulevard and Cameo in the Cocoa Vista Plaza. We are so excited to be there in Port St. Lucie. If you have any questions or input, please just text us or call us at 772-464-3598.
This is WPSL Port St. Lucie.
And now, back to Joanne's World of Nutrition with Joanne Seeger.
Well, hi everyone. Thanks for giving me a moment. Wow, I'm so used to always drinking water. It's like I feel this codependency. I was like shaking for the first half. Where's my water? Oh boy. All right, so if you guys all just started tuning in, welcome to the show. We have Dr. Lexi Loch here with us, and she is a naturopathic physician. Is that the correct word, right?
Naturopathic doctor or naturopathic physician.
Okay. So I always thank you for answering that. So naturopathic doctor or naturopathic physician, they both sound incredible to me. So she is educating us on some really cutting edge material, things that I have not learned yet. So we are all learning together. I'm so excited to share these products, especially in the new store in Port St. Lucie. And once again, if you have any input of products that you are buying at Nutrition Smart and really are excited to see on my shelves, just text it to us or text the picture of the bottle or the UPC number, and we will do our best to have it. Might not make it for opening at this point, but you never know, it might already be there. So you can text 772-464-3598. We will have a small amount of grocery and snacks and lots of beverages. So if you have any input about your favorite chocolate, coffee, tea, please, I would love to hear your feedback. And so without further ado, let's keep learning. All right, so we covered PEA, the first half, and saying that we can still add Curamin and acute pain relief or Curamed with it. It sounds like a win-win because we know the thousands of things those great things do. So it's a win-win. And, sometimes, we do a lot of, naughty things that we don't want to stop. So we need some help against them and all that inflammation that they cause, right? All right. So I'm literally have like a cheat sheet because of your mailer. So, so the next one I want to talk about, and if you're not prepared to, that's okay, because I know these are all brand new. Urinary tract intensive support. What
Ooh.
about that one?
Okay, so first off, for all of my, women, female-bodied people out there, like if you've had a UTI before, it is something that you never want to
Not
experience
again.
again. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's really challenging because, of course, any type of infection generally is going to be treated with antibiotics. However, we know that when it comes to urinary tract infections, people will tend to stop an antibiotic once they start feeling better. So this leads to things like antibiotic resistance and, having to take longer courses of antibiotics. And we also know that there's a lot of residual damage that can occur when we take something like an antibiotic. But let me also just put the premise out there that having an untreated urinary tract infection can lead to more of a serious infection in the kidneys called pyelonephritis. So, of course, we want to make sure that when we have a UTI, we are using things that can help directly address the infection. And when it comes to that, I think that there are several ingredients that kind of come to mind that can be used for urinary tract infections. Number one is cranberry. This is probably one that folks have heard of before. You know, and sometimes I have patients ask me, well, can I just drink cranberry juice? And, cranberry juice, for a lot of times, they have to add sugar to it, right? Because cranberry can be relatively tart. And the last thing we want to do when we have a urinary tract infection is add more sugar into the mix. So I think cranberry in a supplement form is ideal. And then also D-mannose. And lastly is vitamin C. So I wanted to just kind of tell you what some of the ingredients are, and now let's talk a little bit more about why they are so beneficial for urinary tract infections. So cranberries, of course, are wonderful fruits. They have a variety of compounds in them. But one compound in particular that kind of sticks out for its antibacterial effects is something called quinic acid. Quinic with a Q, Quinic. So quinic acid does have some direct antibacterial effects, meaning it can go and either prevent the bacteria from replicating, or it can directly go and target those bacteria so they can't wreak havoc in the bladder. And then cranberries also contain a group of compounds called polyphenols. Polyphenols are really good at helping to prevent bacteria from sticking to the inner wall of the bladder, because that's what bacteria need to do. Bacteria enter typically from the external environment. They kind of move their way up the urethra, which is the tube that carries urine from the bladder to the outside world. And in women, we have a shorter urethra, which is why we are more prone to urinary tract infections. So there was a study that was done looking at an acute, meaning sudden onset urinary tract infection, and folks were treated with either a standard antibiotic or cranberry for 7 days. So cranberry was found to work better. Twice as many folks said that they felt very well versus the antibiotic after a week of treatment. There's other research showing that cranberry supplementation can reduce the risk of UTIs in general by about 30%. So I think cranberry is a great option. And then the second ingredient I mentioned is something called D-mannose. D-mannose is really cool because it also helps to prevent bacteria from sticking inside of the bladder. So those bacteria are kind of trying to crawl their way up into the bladder, and then they have all these different kind of like arms, if you will. And D-mannose will go and sit in those arms so those arms can't attach to the bladder wall. And when that happens, the bacteria are just kind of floating in the bladder, and then, which is why we need to stay extra hydrated when we have a urinary tract infection. And then we can go and flush those bacteria out because they have nowhere to stick inside the bladder. So I think D-mannose is another really, really great ingredient. In women who had previously had a urinary tract infection, only about 5% of them had a recurrence within 6 months if they were taking D-mannose. But those who weren't taking D-mannose had about a 33% risk of getting another urinary tract infection within 6 months. So cranberry, D-mannose, and then vitamin C. Vitamin C, of course, we know is just great for the immune system in general. However, in the urinary tract side of things, it helps to lower the pH of our urine. So making our pH more acidic, which is what we want because that acidic environment is not favorable to bacteria. So it kind of shifts that urine pH less than 7, putting it more on the acidic side of things. And interestingly enough, it's been shown to have antibacterial properties, even if whatever urinary tract infection someone may have is resistant to antibiotics. So big plus
I
here.
guess you are well versed on it.
Yeah.
So thank you. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah, you're so smart. All right. So, Dr. Lexi is talking about the urinary tract intensive support by Terry Naturally. I do not have it on the shelf yet, but I will very soon. But
Yes.
I definitely, I know it might be a couple months before you're back on, so I want to cover these. And this is so critical. So my father-in-law is a urologist. And so he does send me a lot of his patients. I feel very blessed. And also, I work closely with a pelvic floor specialist that I just want to emphasize to all the men and females out there to make sure that your urine ends up in the toilet, okay? Because it's one little dribble that backs up into the kidneys is not a good thing, okay, guys? So, your pelvic floor specialist, they can help you to make sure you're addressing that you have a full stream. So, if you have a prolapse or you have inflammation in the wrong areas, you might not get a full urine stream. So, that gentle rock on the toilet or tilting over, you want to try every trick. And if you don't want to go and you feel a little nervous about someone, discussing that with you, there's amazing YouTube videos that a lot of pelvic floor specialists have made that you can get that information. But a gentle rock tilting over, make sure that you're not holding any urine back. Yeah, a lot
I
of
love
females don't
those.
like to talk about this, but it's really critical, especially with prolapses. That tiny bit of urine can really cause havoc.
That's such a good point, and I have, excuse me, quite a few friends that have done some additional training in like pelvic floor therapy specifically. I've done a small amount of training, but I have friends who like they specialize their practice in helping people have healthier pelvic floors because we don't want those muscles too tight. We also don't want them, too loose in a sense, which can contribute to things like prolapse.
Yes, I always thought from my situation that I was too loose. I'm not exercising enough. I have weight gain, in my abdominal area, so it must be too loose, everything too loose. And then when I went to the pelvic floor specialist, she's like, Joanne, you are so tight. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? And that's the thing is if you go to the specialist, they will tell you what's going on and how to help it. You
And
know,
I think that's a really good point too, because most people are under the impression that maybe they need to do like the Kegel exercises to strengthen or tighten those muscles. But if you don't get evaluated first, you could actually
exactly.
be doing more damage, if you will, because those muscles actually need to be more relaxed. And you're sitting there trying to work
Yes.
them out harder.
And
So
that's
it's like,
exactly what she told me. I was doing the opposite to help myself. Like I was actually hurting myself by what I thought needed. Well, I got to lose weight in my belly and I got to tighten everything up. And it was just, yeah,
and
you
it's
know.
because we tend to hold a lot of tension in that area anyway.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's like if we're just adding more fuel to the fire, that's not gonna be helping. So I think, I'm a huge fan of referring people for pelvic floor therapy or pelvic floor evaluation. So I'm so happy to hear that you have local people that you like to refer to as well.
Absolutely. And this is a perfect segue because one thing that pelvic floor specialists also help is with constipation, digestion, and elimination. Because if something's going on, whether it be a kink or inflammation or scar tissue adhesions, but Terry's formula for digestive, holy moly, it's changing lives. Like in my store, people are coming and saying, you don't understand. Like, how does this work? It doesn't have laxatives in it. It's not a fiber product. And I'm like, well, Ayurveda medicine's been around for, thousands of years. They're pretty smart. So tell us about that one.
I love that combination of herbs because you're right, it doesn't contain laxatives. And people don't always realize that having a bowel movement, once every couple days is not necessarily normal. As naturopathic physicians, sometimes there's a joke that says like, we're some of the only doctors that will ask you about your bowel movements because it's
Yeah.
like, it's information that we're collecting from the body, ideally on a daily basis. But sometimes I have people tell me like, oh yeah, I go once per week. And they think that that is totally fine. And I'm just like, if no one's ever taught you this information before, how do you know what is, normal versus abnormal, and ideally we're having at least one bowel movement per day, well formed, no pain, easy to pass, things like that. Ideally, probably more like two, sometimes even three, depending on the circumstances. But again, I have people when they come in and they're like, oh, my stomach really hurts. I'm like, well, when was your last bowel movement? Oh, last week sometime.
Oh,
And it's
Lord.
like, okay. And it's like, you're literally FOS, it's like you're full of shenanigans. And it's like, we need to get that stuff moving. Um, so there are a lot of things, that historically people may have tried. I think people gear towards the laxatives because they're looking for a fast result. But there can be a lot of downsides because sometimes you can even get dependent on using some of those laxatives. Magnesium sometimes, depending on the form, can be used because it draws water into the colon. So that can be helpful. However, there is this combination of herbs that's been used again traditionally in Ayurveda for probably thousands of years. So time tested. It has things that people may be familiar with, like turmeric, andrographis, galangal, which is kind of in like the ginger family. Also, I believe ginger is in there, licorice, etc. Anyway, really, really great combination of herbs that has been shown to reduce abdominal pain, reduce indigestion, reduce acid reflux, help to normalize bowel movements. And this study was in 4 weeks. Whereas the folks who were just taking placebo, no real change in any of the parameters that I just talked about. But again, it's kind of interesting to think like, well, how could this, impact my reflux? It's like, well, if you're not having normal bowel movements, things are kind of getting stuck, so then food sitting longer in your stomach or in your intestines, and then it can kind of wash back up into the esophagus, some of that acidity. So I think this formula is really great for what it can do and also potentially what it can replace. Maybe it can replace something like the acid blockers for people because they didn't realize that they were having some of that acid reflux because they were constipated. Or it can get people off some of those harsh laxatives, because what I like about this formula is generally I have people take it with like a full glass of water about 30 minutes to an hour before bed. So when you wake up in the morning, you'll likely have a bowel movement, but it's not going to be one of those things where you have to like jump out of bed and you're like, oh man, I have to go now. Like sometimes you can experience with the laxatives. It's like, it's hard to, be at work or be out and about if you're on something like a laxative, because when that stuff hits, like you need to go to the bathroom immediately.
Yep.
So I like this formula because it can still be very effective, but it tends to be very gentle as well.
I love it. Perfect explanation.
Yeah.
All right. So to get to the next one, and this one, I mean, of course I know it, but I don't really know it. Aronia berry.
Oh, I was hoping you would bring that one up because
Good,
this is
because I'm a little lost with this one.
okay. So aronia berries aren't probably something that people eat or consume on a regular basis, right? So it was actually interesting. So Terry Lemerond, who is the president and founder of our company, started growing some aronia berry bushes at his house. And before I moved out to Portland, one of the last summers that we were there, he invited some of us people who worked for the company to come out and pick some of the aronia berries because he had just so many of them. Now, aronia berries are relatively tart. They're also like so dark blue and purple, they're almost black. And what that tells us is those berries have very high levels of polyphenols, some of the key compounds, and anthocyanins, which give it that pigmentation. And there's not a lot of naturally occurring foods that have that kind of color. And this is one of the reasons why we need to eat the rainbow, right? Is because all of those different anthocyanins, polyphenols, etc., we need to kind of piece together getting the whole rainbow on a daily basis. So some of the key things that I think aronia berries do is they're really great at neutralizing free radicals. So in the body, we kind of have this constant dance of free radicals and antioxidants. Ideally, our antioxidants go and neutralize those free radicals and we stay in a state of balance. But there are so many things that cause free radicals. Even just producing energy in our body creates a lot of free radicals. So this is why we need a constant supply of antioxidants. And I think aronia berries are wonderful because they have that color that we don't get a lot of in our diet. So aronia berries are antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer, um, anti-diabetic. So they help to stabilize blood sugars. There's this interesting quote that's like, you will not die as quickly from lack of polyphenols or these plant compounds as some of the other essential nutrients, but they are absolutely necessary for a long and healthy lifespan. They're often called lifespan essentials. So these are another one that's kind of hard because they cover so many bases.
Well, because it's like how food is supposed to be. It's supposed to nourish us and work all our systems. So, when you have to study one component, it's very expensive. And so, if we just use our common sense,
Yeah.
I mean, look at like bears, right? Eating berries. I mean, they're pretty strong, you know.
Right? You think about
So,
what they have access to throughout the seasons, right?
yeah.
Sometimes they have more access to, eating meat. Sometimes it's just berries and other plants, etc. And I think, as humans, we've kind of evolved too to eat more with the seasons when we're able to. But yeah, aronia berries, I think about really for disease prevention because again, they're neutralizing a lot of those free radicals. I think about it in the longevity side of things. So making sure we can live a long and healthy lifespan. There's also been research on aronia berries for helping post-exercise recovery. So athletes or people perhaps that are trying to get back into more of a movement or workout routine can be really, really important. And then there's been some good research on some of the chronic diseases. So heart disease and cancer, top two causes of death in the United States. Also, eye conditions like macular degeneration, diabetes, metabolic syndrome. So again, I kind of think about this one almost as like a foundational product since a lot of us aren't eating aronia berries on a daily basis.
Did you guys try them when you were at Terry's house? Did you
Oh yeah.
actually eat them? Were they
Yep.
super tart?
It kind of gives you, when you like have like do that puckering, like that it
Yep.
almost like
It hurts
dries
your
things
cheek.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so and almost like a little like prickly. So yeah, that's probably one of the main reasons why people don't eat them like they do blueberries or raspberries or strawberries.
Right.
So
And plus, probably back they would put so much sugar with it to and negate the effects of it because that's what they seem to do, like make
yeah.
it a jelly with tons of sugar. So,
Exactly. And in our aronia berry complex, we also have it combined with our French grapeseed extract.
oh, which
So
I
we
love.
know, I know, I'm like, you get the best of both worlds, right? It's like because grapeseed extract is also a very powerful antioxidant and has a lot of the same uses that we discussed for aronia, but I think about it a little bit more specifically for heart conditions. I think grapeseed extract is probably one of my favorite natural medicines for helping the heart, the arteries, proper blood flow. So I definitely think that those two in one, supplement, it covers a lot of bases.
Wow, I love it. So, if you had a patient come to you and they had a lot of my clientele is females over 50,
Mm.
and a varicose veins is a concern to them, especially because we're in Florida, so they're always
Yeah.
wearing bathing suits, right? They're always at the pool or the beach. So do you think this product, because I know OPC, I love OPC for varicose veins. Do you think this would kind of kick it up a little bit for that?
I do. I think the combination is really great. However, I do also know that sometimes for varicose veins, we may need to start out on a little bit higher dosage of grapeseed extract. So they could either, double up if they're taking the aronia because it combines the aronia and the grapeseed, it gives you 100 milligrams of both. So folks could, potentially double it up, or if they wanted to do, like the 400 milligrams of grapeseed extract once or twice per day, you can kind of mix and match, but I do definitely think that the combination of aronia and grapeseed extract, super, super supportive for the whole cardiovascular system, including the health of arteries and veins, our heart muscle. So I think you're onto something here by maybe starting to steer people towards the combination as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny. They'll be more concerned about the varicose veins
Yeah.
than the heart valve. But I'm like, all right, it's okay.
Okay.
I don't care. It's going to help both. So,
Exactly. It's like whatever goal you need to take it. It's like that's whatever health outcome you have in mind, like do
and,
it.
so Lexi, the last 3 minutes, can you tell my audience? I think we're in total agreement about how we love Terry so much as a human and the creator of Europharma and Terry Naturally. Could you kind of just share also your experience with the company personally as far as what they stand for? Because some people come in and they see 1,000 boxes of Terry, and even in my home, it's
Yeah,
my whole shelf is Terry Naturally. Can you kind of share your story? It's why it's so special.
absolutely. I think a couple of the things that really sets Terry Naturally apart is number one, we are employee owned. We are one of the only companies in the industry that, Terry was trying to think about what kind of like succession planning almost, if you will. And he was like, who better would I want to leave the company to than the employees? Because he knows we are so passionate. These are the products we take. These are the products we recommend to our friends and family. I have a whole cupboard in my kitchen dedicated to supplements. And one of the reasons why we continue to be one of the top selling brands out there is because we use some of the highest quality ingredients on the market. Terry's constantly traveling the world, finding, latest and greatest, but also tried and true ingredients, things that people have used in their respective places for hundreds, if not thousands of years. We're also incredibly committed to quality. We test all of our products a minimum of 3 times before they ever hit the shelves in the health food stores. And we also are very committed to research because I can tell you all of the things that the products do, but it's always so great to have, some studies out there, information showing, in a setting what exactly these ingredients are capable of. For instance, our curcumin has 90 published studies and 42 of them are human clinical trials. So it's like, we have the information to back up what we are saying. And we're doing a lot of that research, or researchers are coming to us and they're like, hey, we want to use these ingredients because we've seen what they're capable of, or we want to further investigate what they are capable of. So I think there are a ton of, I could go on and on, but I know we're
I
short
know.
on time.
Yep, the music is on. Dr. Lexi, thank you so much for spending some time with us this morning. I hope you have the amazing near future until I see you again. Thank you so much. Bye. All
Thank you
right,
for having
everyone,
me.
check out Port St. Lucie. We should be open any day. You can call us 772-464-3598 for more info. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
You've been listening to Joanne's World of Nutrition. Wednesday mornings in the 10 o'clock hour, with 2 locations now to serve you. This is WPSL, Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast, webcaster to the world, and home of Joanne's Nutrition World. And Joanne's World of Nutrition.